Good morning, traders. So today is July 17th, and we are bringing you our daily recap for the day. Now, today is my biggest green day of the month. We are green $5,100 on STAK. Let's break it down. Welcome, traders. So today we are going to break down STAK and what we saw and how we locked in $5,100. Let's get started. So yesterday, the stock made a move from $2 to about $3.50. I didn't trade this move. I didn't see it. I wasn't too interested, to be honest. You can kind of see this choppy action. It has about a 10 million float for the stock. And by the end of it, you can see it makes its consolidation range between 350 and 443. So the high of this 440 level is roughly about 440, is going to act as resistance for today. You can see after it drops, it consolidates in this $3.30 to $3.50 range. So this is going to act as support. And this is very, very crucial because when we see what happens today in the opening market, it makes a really big push from about $3.40 all the way up to $5. Now, I traded this stock a few times. And if you look at the chart from yesterday, it's pretty clear that this $4.40 is going to act as resistance, and everybody is going to look at that level. So you can see it makes a clear top at 440 and it rejects. When it started to reject the 440s, I started shorting it. I shorted at 420 and I added on this breakdown at 410. Now, I actually exited this position. I had small size, but I actually exited this position and I gotten out around $3.85. So I think this was near the very, very bottom of this candle right here. This candle makes a low of 381. I got around 385. I actually added at $3.90 as well because I was expecting this to break down and get back below $3.50. So when that didn't happen, I decided, you know what? We need to lock in some profit first because we don't have a cushion on the day. So I locked it in $3.85. I made a couple $100. I'm not exactly sure how much, but it was very, very small size because these type of stocks are not my main setups. They're not the stocks I typically like to trade. Why? Because when a stock has volume the day before, you have to analyze and find out where the bag holders are. Versus a simple stock that pushes up and fades is much cleaner because all the people who are trapped are intraday. Rather, this is people swing trading who are trapped, and this is people who are still stuck from yesterday's close. So because of that, my first trade was on very, very small size. I got in around 420, added at 410, added a little bit more at $3.90, and I exited my entire position at $3.85. I'll show you the trade zero charts later. Now, after I got out, I noticed that it was grinding back up. It was making another play for $4.40. Now, I knew the moment it broke $4.40, breakout traders are going to start piling in. Why? Because we made a top at 440 yesterday. We made a top at 440 this morning. It broke down almost 20%, and now it's reclaiming the 440 level. So this, for breakout traders, is actually a very strong setup. It's not breaking out the intraday high or the pre-market high, is breaking out yesterday's high that made a triple top. So because of that, I knew after this breakout, this stock was going to be very, very strong and attract a lot of buyers. And you can see that on this candle here, on this breakout candle, it was equivalent to the initial breakout candle. And the subsequent candle was on almost double the volume. So you can see after this initial push, it came back down, but it breaks this high, and this candle here is the largest green candle of the day. So we know that this breakout candle is going to be very, very strong. Unfortunately, you have to remember that this stock went up on no news at all. So there is no real catalyst behind this. And after it makes a top around $4.95, I told myself that is the top that I'm going to risk. Because if this breaks $5, there is no telling how far it can push. So I actually took a short in this candle here around $4.70. Now, my reasoning was after reject the top at the $5 level, it would need tremendous amount of volume to break back above the 5. So you can see from this candle here that this is the largest green candle of the day. For the $5 level to break, especially on a stock with no real catalyst, I expected even more volume. So you can clearly see that this didn't happen. It tapped $5, rejected it a few times until it finally rolled over. Now, when this rollover happened, it was on massive amounts of volume. You can clearly see that these candles were solid red bars. There was no way breakout traders could get out. And this is what trapped so many people. And because it trapped so many people, I was very confident that I could hold this. I shorted around this 470 level. When it broke down, unfortunately, I did not add to my position. I really wish I did, but because I had full size already, risking the break of this $5, I didn't add to my position on this breakdown. This drop was almost 50%. I knew there was no way long traders and breakout traders could exit their position. I knew there was going to be a mini bounce, and after that bounce, it was going to fade and flush again. Because if there is no bounce, if you're long this stock, you can't really get out. You're stuck. Your position is stuck. You cannot exit because there's no bounce. And short sellers aren't covering either. So if short sellers aren't covering, pushing the stock back up, and long traders are stuck, this thing is going to fade. And you have to keep in mind, there is no real catalyst on this stock. It has a flow of 10 million shares. So this is not like those micro cap stocks. Micro cap stocks are a little bit different. Because their floats are so low, they have to cover at a certain point. But with 10 million shares, they can absorb a lot more shares on the downside. And that's what happened. So I held this into the open. It made a push into $3.30. I expected this push, to be honest. I wasn't sure how much, but my average was in the $4. I shorted in the 460s. So I could absorb a lot of churn. Now, this is the 1 minute chart. And you can see as soon as the market opened, it made a mini push and it immediately started fading. There was actually quite a few halts that TradingView is not showing on this chart right now, but I got caught in a few halts going up and down. And the reason I was able to hold through all of these is because I understood that all these halts was just to add liquidity. It was to provide liquidity for people to get out. You have to remember, if the stock drops from $5 to about $2.50, it's down 50%. There are no more buyers. And after you squeeze out all the momentum traders who are stuck and all the long traders who are stuck, you're basically playing with yourselves. All the short sellers are playing with themselves right now because it has dropped so much, they need to add liquidity. So this one actually halted on the downside to about 285, and then it dropped to 250. I don't know if you can tell in this candle right here, and it pushed back up into another halt at 290s. It reclaimed $3 before it finally halted back down to 250. So I'm going to show the trade zero charts because this one's a little more clear. You can see after this push, it halts going down. It makes a dip to $2.50, pushes back up, and halts. Now, I wasn't too worried about any of these because the volume in the halt was so small. This halt was only met with like 40,000 shares on the ask. Nobody was willing to provide liquidity on the ask. So I expected this to break back above $3, but in the long term, I knew this was going to continue to fade. And that's what happened. So I'll tell you what these halts are. This halt happened on $2.85. This one tapped 250, pushed back up, halted at $2.93, opened around 306, I believe, made a push to about 320, halted going back down to $2.50, halted again on this candle here to $2.25. It opened at 215, and immediately, the moment it opened, 50,000 shares were covered, and it pushed the stock back into another halt at $2.38. Now, after this halt, that's when I started getting out. So I'll show you the actual chart. These were my scalps. This was my main position at $4.69. And I held it and I got out on the very bottom at $2.51. I got out another piece of my position at $2.32. Now, this area here, I saw that they were chasing a halt level at 225, and there were some buyers at 231, but there were a lot of sellers at 232. I knew this was a liquidity play, so I got partial just in case I was wrong. And it actually did halt at 225 and open at 217. And after it opened on this halt, it pushed to 238, and I decided to exit my position completely. I knew it was a liquidity grab, but at this point, I was up $5,116. I had half my position here, about 1,400 shares, and in hindsight, I really wish I could have held for this breakdown. Even right now, you can clearly see that it's at $2.03. These exits here was about 1,400 shares at $2.48 and $2.50. My worry at the time was if it breaks 250, it will probably retest 270, 280s, and it'll chop around in that area. Why? Because all the liquidity is exiting the stock. So because of that, I decided to take profit and I exited my position completely. So you can see my average exit was $2.70. This is not entirely accurate because again, this scalp here influenced it, but my main position, my exits were $2.50. These two exits were also $2.40 and $2.50, and this one here is around $2.32. Average probably in the 240s. So overall, this was a good trade. I really, really wish I held for this breakdown. I mean, if you look on the daily, you can see that $2 is support. And given the push and the fade, I actually expected this one to fade to about $1.60 to $1.80 level. Unfortunately, after this push, and given how much I was up by, I decided to cut my position and just call it a day there. So that was my trade. We made about $5,116.06. This was a really good trade. This was my best trade of the month. We made over $2 a share on this one. So that's it, guys. We're ending off Friday on a very strong, very green day. And hopefully, after a few slow days on Wednesday and Thursday, we will be able to continue this momentum into the coming week and end the month strong. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is my biggest green day. I'm going to go enjoy my Friday. Hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.